What I've realized is loneliness and solitude are two different things. So yes, of course, there was this moment in time, 2 years ago, where I just felt really alone. But I don't feel that way anymore because I have me. You know what I mean? And that really is the best connection and relationship that you can have.
Cory, I love, how are you navigating this life now? You're a single father and keeping it, positive with the kids. How you doing this?
Just love. Everything starts and ends with love,
Yeah.
And we a family, you know what I'm saying? We're a family. No matter what people say, I block out the noise. At least I block out all the noise. And my kids is gonna live to see all this one day.
Emotional intelligence is just so important.
I
to
understand
me.
that.
You being mindful of just who you are, your behaviors, your traumas, your triggers. Are you in therapy?
That's a good one.
Are you kind,
America's sweetheart might not be as unbothered as she wants us to believe. Tia Mowry has spent the last 2 years pushing a soft life, glow-up narrative, smiling with her kids, sipping matcha, and serving healed and happy energy on Instagram. But word on the street says all that zen may have just cracked wide open. After news broke that her ex-husband, Cory, quietly remarried, whispers started flying that Tia allegedly had a full-on meltdown. And there's even talk of a leaked voice note that could expose her rawest, most unfiltered feelings. If true, this isn't just another messy ex situation. This could be the moment that reshapes Tia's entire legacy. Tia Mowry has been selling the world a picture-perfect fairy tale ever since her divorce from Cory hit the headlines. On Instagram, she's the definition of soft life chic, smiling through yoga sessions, posting radiant selfies with captions about growth, healing, and self-love, and giving off the aura of a woman who finally found her peace. She's been branded as the twin who chose happiness, the sitcom sweetheart turned glowing single mom who leveled up by walking away. But while the internet clapped for her curated comeback, the streets are whispering a different story. Because allegedly, behind those affirmations and polished reels, Tia just had a full-on breakdown. And not just any breakdown, the kind that supposedly got caught on tape. Word is, there's a voice note floating around where Tia's calm, collected facade cracks wide open, revealing a side of her the public has never seen. If true, this audio could be the most unfiltered moment of her career. Raw, emotional, and maybe even desperate. Now here's why this matters. Tia isn't just some random reality star or messy influencer. She's Tia from Sister. She's the twin we grew up with, the wholesome face of family-friendly television, the girl next door who built her reputation on grace and positivity for nearly 3 decades. Her entire brand, both personal and professional, has been about stability, relatability, and composure. But if this alleged voice note ever drops, it won't just be tea for the blogs. It'll be a direct hit to that carefully polished legacy. Because in Hollywood, one meltdown is all it takes for the narrative to flip, and suddenly the glow-up queen becomes the messy ex who couldn't let go. And that's the real gag here. We're not just talking about a woman moving on from her ex. We're talking about whether America's sweetheart can survive the internet seeing her crack. If the rumors are true, Tia Mowry isn't as healed as her captions suggest. And once the world hears her voice, unfiltered, unscripted, and allegedly unraveling, there may be no going back. On the surface, Tia Mowry has mastered the art of the post-divorce glow-up. Scroll her Instagram and you'll see nothing but peace, light, and endless affirmations. She's out here sipping matcha, doing yoga flows, flashing radiant smiles with her kids, and hitting us with captions about choosing happiness, finding herself, and thriving in solitude. It's the kind of soft life content that looks tailor-made for Pinterest boards and brand deals. And let's be real, it works. Every time she posts another reel about self-love or new beginnings, the comment section fills with fans calling her an inspiration, a role model, a beacon of strength for women everywhere. But here's the flip side, the one that doesn't make it into the carousels or captions. Insiders say Tia's not nearly as unbothered as her feed suggests. Allegedly, she's still checking for Cory, still watching his moves, still low-key invested in what he's doing even after all this time. Behind the calm exterior, whispers say she's been rattled ever since news broke that Cory quietly remarried. And now, with rumors of that leaked voice note floating around, people are starting to question whether the healed and happy Tia is more of a character than reality. And let's not forget, Tia doesn't run her image alone. She's got a whole team making sure she stays in that brand-safe bubble. The truth is, sponsors don't want messy. They don't want bitter ex-wife energy. They want soft smiles, family vibes, and captions that can double as Hallmark card quotes. That's why her Instagram has been so polished, why her divorce announcement looked more like a rollout than heartbreak, and why every interview comes with the same careful talking points about love, growth, and positivity. Her image isn't just personal, it's business. It sells. But here's the danger. When the public persona is all sunshine and affirmations, any crack in the mask feels 10 times louder. If the rumors are true and this voice note really shows Tia breaking down, it won't just expose her private pain. It'll expose how curated her glow-up has been all along. And that contrast between the brand she's selling and the reality she might be living is exactly what makes this story explosive. Because fans didn't just buy into Tia's healing, they invested in it. And once they sense the disconnect, it's not just Tia's personal life on the line. It's her credibility, her endorsements, and the wholesome twin image she's built for decades. The cracks in Tia's glow-up story didn't just appear overnight. They've been showing for a while if you look closely. Let's rewind to 2022, when she shocked the world by announcing her divorce from Cory Hardrict. Now, most celebrity splits come with messy headlines, cryptic posts, or at least a little bit of raw emotion. But Tia's rollout? It looked like a brand campaign. Perfectly staged photos, soft lighting, carefully crafted captions about choosing happiness, growth, and new beginnings. It wasn't giving heartbreak. It was giving publicist-approved rollout, like she was selling us a product instead of revealing a breakup. And at first, the internet ate it up. Fans were in her comments, cheering her on. Yes, sis, choose you. So proud of you. It was polished, empowering, inspirational. But behind the applause, some folks side-eyed the timing and tone, clocking that it all felt a little too neat for someone walking away from a 14-year marriage. Then came the single era. Almost overnight, Tia started leaning heavy into her new freedom, posting thirst traps, silly TikToks, and reels about self-discovery. On the surface, it looked like a woman reclaiming her joy. But the vibe? A little forced, a little performative. It read less like someone genuinely enjoying their new life and more like someone trying to prove they were winning without their ex. The "I'm healed, I'm glowing, I'm free" energy felt more like a script than a reality. And then there were the interviews. Multiple times she was asked about Cory, and every single time she'd laugh it off, flashing that practice smile, tossing out lines about love and growth. But if you really watched, the chuckle was a little too quick. The answer's a little too rehearsed. It gave the impression of someone trying hard to convince not just the audience, but maybe even herself, that she was unbothered. Meanwhile, Cory stayed quiet, moving in silence while Tia seemed determined to make her glow up the headline. Piece by piece, the illusion started to fray. The divorce announcement that looked more like PR than pain. The post that screamed performance over peace. The interviews where the laughter didn't quite reach her eyes. All of it painted the picture of a woman working overtime to project healing, even if the healing wasn't all the way real. And now, with the whispers of that alleged voice note floating around, all those little cracks in her glow-up story suddenly look like breadcrumbs leading us to this very moment. While Tia was busy making her healed and happy journey a public production, Cory Hardrict chose a completely different playbook: silence. After the divorce news hit, he didn't post cryptic captions. He didn't jump on TikTok with new skits. He didn't flood his feed with shirtless selfies to show he was living his best life. Cory went ghost. For months, the man was practically invisible online, moving like a shadow while Tia carried the weight of their narrative. She was the one giving interviews, smiling through press tours, packaging her heartbreak as empowerment. Meanwhile, Cory was nowhere to be found. At first, folks thought that silence meant defeat. The narrative spun like this. Tia left him. She's glowing, he's sulking. But then, out of nowhere, Cory reemerges. Not with messy clapbacks, not with bitter subposts, but with a whole new wife. Low-key, no theatrics, no public countdown. Just boom. Cory is married again, looking calm, centered, and secure. And that's when the energy shifted. Because while Tia was out here performing peace for Instagram, Cory was actually living it. He kept his head down, healed in private, and popped out looking leveled up. And you know how the internet works. The second people saw Cory's quiet stability next to Tia's nonstop oversharing, the roles flipped. Suddenly, Cory wasn't the man who got left. He was the man who won. The prize. The guy who leveled up while his ex kept proving she couldn't let go. And the irony is brutal. For years, people looked at Cory as Tia's husband, the quieter, less famous one who got lucky marrying a star. But now, the tables have turned. Tia, the bigger name, the sitcom sweetheart, the polished twin, is the one looking pressed. Cory, the background figure, is the one standing tall, looking like he upgraded. That's why the alleged voice note rumor hits so hard. It doesn't just hint that Tia might still be hung up on Cory. It reinforces the perception that she fumbled and he flourished. And that's the danger of optics. Because in the court of public opinion, perception is reality. And right now, Cory's silence reads as strength, while Tia's glow-up campaign reads as desperation. One looks like peace. The other looks like performance. And in this cultural game of narratives, that quiet contrast is exactly what makes Cory come out looking like the prize. Now let's get into the piece that has everybody on edge, the alleged voice note. This is the kind of rumor that doesn't just stay in the blogs. It hovers over someone's entire image like a storm cloud. Because if what's being whispered is true, this recording could be the moment that cracks Tia's whole glow-up narrative wide open. The streets say the audio is raw, unfiltered, and messy in a way we've never heard from her before. Allegedly, it's not the calm, composed Tia with polished captions about growth. It's Tia in real time, unraveling over Cory and his new wife. Some claim she's crying, others say she's angry, maybe even begging him to spin the block. Whatever the exact details, the rumor alone is enough to make people sit up, because the idea of America's sweetheart caught slipping on tape is explosive. And here's why it matters. Tia has built her entire post-divorce identity on the foundation of strength, grace, and healing. She's turned her breakup into a brand. Sponsorship-friendly, soft life chic, complete with affirmations and carefully curated reels. Her followers buy into the idea that she's not just surviving, but thriving. But one leaked moment, just one, could undo all of that. Because in this era, perception isn't about consistency, it's about the receipts. And a voice note of Tia spazzing would be the ultimate receipt that the captions don't match the reality. Now, don't get twisted. This isn't about whether she's allowed to feel pain. She is. 14 years of marriage and 2 kids. Of course, she's going to feel it. But the problem is the gap between her brand and her reality. If that recording really exists, it's not just a private breakdown. It's proof that the polished healing she'd been selling might have been more performance than progress. And the internet lives for that kind of contradiction. Think about it. All it takes is a few seconds of shaky audio, her voice cracking, her emotions spilling out, and suddenly the narrative flips overnight. The healed queen becomes the pressed ex. The inspiration becomes the cautionary tale. And because Tia's brand is rooted in wholesomeness and composure, the fall from grace hits harder. A messy influencer can bounce back from drama, but a polished twin from sister, one meltdown could follow her for years. That's the danger of the alleged voice note. It's not just gossip, it's a possible turning point. One leak, one messy moment, and decades of careful branding could go up in smoke. And until we know if that audio is real or just another internet myth, Tia's entire reputation is hanging in the balance. But before we write Tia off as pressed, we have to take a step back and look at the fair lens. Because at the end of the day, this isn't just a celebrity with a messy voice note. It's a woman who lived through a 14-year marriage, raised 2 kids, and then had to watch her whole family dynamic shift in front of the world. That's not light work. That's heavy. And no amount of yoga poses or self-love captions can erase that kind of emotional weight overnight. Think about it. Tia and Cory weren't some short-term Hollywood fling. They built a life together. He was there during her career highs, her pregnancies, the transitions that made her who she is today. Walking away from that, even if she truly believed it was the right choice, means grieving not just a person, but an entire chapter of her life. And grief doesn't follow a neat Instagram timeline. It doesn't care about captions like choosing happiness or glowing and growing. Sometimes grief hits you sideways, months or even years later, when you thought you were past it. So maybe this alleged meltdown isn't proof that Tia is bitter, but proof that she's human. Because let's be real, who among us hasn't broken down behind closed doors after trying to keep it together for too long? The difference is when we cry in our bedrooms or vent to a friend, nobody leaks the audio. For Tia, the possibility of that private slip becoming public is the real risk of living in the spotlight. And if we're being honest, maybe the reason the rumor hits so hard is because it shatters the illusion we've grown comfortable with. We want Tia to be the strong one, the twin who always has it together, the sitcom sweetheart who chose herself and never looked back. But real life isn't a caption. It's messy, complicated, and raw. And if she really did have that moment of vulnerability, maybe it doesn't make her less healed. Maybe it just makes her real. Because here's the truth. You can be healed and still hurt. You can move on and still miss what you had. You can be happy for someone else and still feel the sting of seeing them move forward without you. That doesn't erase growth. It just reminds us that healing isn't linear. So yes, the alleged voice note could bruise Tia's brand. Yes, it could flip the internet's perception of her. But through the fair lens, it's also just a snapshot of a woman who carried a polished image for too long and maybe, just maybe, had one human slip. And that's something we can all understand, even if the internet chooses not to. Here's where it gets dangerous for Tia, not just on a personal level, but on a professional and legacy level. Because one leak, one piece of messy audio, is all it takes to rewrite how the world sees her. For 30 years, Tia has been the graceful twin, the one who stayed out of scandal, the one parents felt safe letting their kids watch. She was family TV royalty, and even as she grew into adulthood, she carried that wholesome, classy energy into her brand. But if that alleged voice note drops, everything flips. The narrative won't be Tia, the healed queen, anymore. It'll be Tia, the messy ex-wife who can't let go. And once the internet gets a new label for you, it sticks. All the soft life captions in the world won't matter if people start turning her brand into a meme. Because perception is everything. And in Hollywood, perception pays the bills. We've seen this play out before. Wendy Williams built a career on being sharp, witty, and in control, until her personal breakdowns became public, and suddenly her brand shifted from media mogul to tragic cautionary tale. Mariah Carey was the epitome of diva elegance, until that infamous breakdown in the early 2000s, when one messy moment had the world questioning her stability for years, even though she bounced back musically. Even Britney Spears, her legacy was rewritten overnight once her vulnerability hit the tabloids, and it took over a decade of fighting just to reclaim her story. Now, Tia isn't on that same level of fame, but the principle is the same. When you've built a career on being polished, composed, and family-friendly, you don't get the same grace as the messy celebs. If someone like Black China or Amber Rose has a meltdown, people shrug, it's expected. But if Tia Mowry, the sister twin, the recipe sharing, affirmations posting single mom, has one, the fallout hits harder. Because it's not on brand. It's the complete opposite. And the legacy risk is real. Right now, Tia's story is the classy twin who chose happiness. But one viral leak could lock her into a whole new narrative. The twin who pretended to glow up but secretly spiraled. That's the danger of branding yourself too tightly. When you slip, even just once, people don't see it as a moment. They see it as the mask coming off. And that's the tightrope Tia is walking right now. One messy voice note doesn't just risk embarrassment. It risks undoing 30 years of reputation, rebranding her not as the inspirational figure she's been selling, but as another celebrity who couldn't hold it together after divorce. And once that shift happens, there's no PR caption strong enough to pull her back. And so we land at the real question, the one that could define not just this rumor cycle, but Tia Mowry's next chapter. If this alleged voice note ever sees the light of day, how will she handle it? Because the fallout isn't just about the audio, it's about the response. There's a world where Tia flips this whole thing in her favor, where she owns the moment, admits she had a breakdown, laughs at herself, and leans into relatability. Imagine her hopping on Instagram Live, saying, "Yes, I cried. Yes, I snapped. I'm human. Healing isn't perfect." That version of Tia would break the internet in a good way. She'd go from polished and distant to real and raw. And sometimes, that kind of honesty makes a celebrity more beloved than ever. But there's another path, a darker one. The internet can be cruel, and once people smell desperation, they don't let up. If the audio paints her as bitter, jealous, or still hung up on Cory, the memes will write themselves. Overnight, she goes from glow-up queen to pressed ex-wife. And once that label sticks, it's brutal to shake. Because no matter what she posts afterward, no matter how many yoga shots, motivational captions, or sponsorship deals, people will comment the same thing. But weren't you crying over Cory? That's the tightrope Tia is walking. Will she reclaim her story, own the mess, and turn it into a moment of strength? Or will she let the internet eat her alive, cementing her as the twin who fumbled her legacy and couldn't let go? The irony here is almost poetic. Tia told the world she was free from a marriage that no longer served her, free to step into her best self, free to glow. But if this leak is real, maybe she's not free at all. Maybe she's still trapped in the past, trapped in a narrative she can't control, trapped in the image she worked so hard to sell. And that's the big picture. Because in Hollywood, it's not just about who you are, it's about who the world believes you to be. And for Tia Mowry, one voice note might be the difference between being remembered as the graceful twin who glowed up or the messy ex-wife who couldn't let go.